Now, we do welcome you today to the Ticket to Work for America's Veteran. And as you know, we have developed materials focused on the veterans and how to prepare a plan, find a job, get support, and keep their benefits while exploring work. This content is importantly good for other beneficiaries of Social Security too. So if you joined us and you find that, hey, I'm not quite interested in that veterans focused information, do know that there'll be a lot of general program information shared, and Deborah is going to cover our employment team that's available to help. If it's not quite right for you, do be encouraged. Next month, we'll have a General Wise webinar, and we'll share that information about how to register on the last slide of today's presentation and on our Choose Work website. And with that, it's now my pleasure to turn as the moderator to introduce our guest presenter, Debora Wagner from Cornell University. Debora has spent 25 years working with legal services and law school clinical programs. Throughout her career, she has presented on topics such as post-entitlement and return to work issues to attorneys, vocational rehabilitation professionals, and individuals with disabilities. She is frequently invited to speak on the intersection of veterans and Social Security benefits, so critical for us today, and with a focus on how work impacts benefits for veterans. From 2016 to 2022, Debora led the statewide network of work incentives training and technical assistance for benefits planners in the state of Ohio. Then in 2021, Debora joined the Cornell University staff, where she now continues to provide work incentives training and technical assistance. She also designed and teaches a credential course on work incentive planning for veterans. Really important expertise for us for dual eligible veteran beneficiaries today. I'll be back in a little bit. As I mentioned, we'll have two Q&As, so please send those in. But for now, I'll turn it over to our presenter, Debora Wagner. Debora?
Thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate the kind introduction. And welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled to have so many people here today for our webinar on the Ticket to Work for America's Veterans. Whether you're a veteran thinking about entering the civilian workforce, or you're going to help a veteran friend or family member, you're in the right place. So today we're going to learn about the Ticket to Work program. We're going to also look at benefits offered through the Department of Veterans Affairs and talk a little bit about what happens to those benefits when veterans go to work and how those benefits intersect together with benefits offered by Social Security. Finally, we're going to provide valuable resources to help you reach your work goals. Whether you're just starting to think about civilian work or you're ready to go, this session will give you the confidence that you need to move forward. So stick around, and what you learned today could really open a door to new possibilities. So let's go ahead and get started. Throughout this session, we are going to share a number of stories of veterans who've used the Ticket to Work program to succeed. And the first story we're going to share is Jeff's story. If you'd like to see this story, you can also use link 7 in the web links, and that will give you the information there too. So after a motorcycle accident that caused serious injuries, including losing the use of his right arm, Marine Corps veteran Jeff began receiving Social Security disability insurance, also known as SSDI, and spent the next 8 years focusing on his recovery. After learning how to navigate daily life with a disability, he decided to attend college. He connected with his state's vocational rehabilitation program, and they helped with college expenses and disability accommodations. Jeff went on to earn a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. His VR agency then referred him to a benefits counselor through the Ticket program. He learned about work incentives and how working would affect his disability benefits. The information he learned about work incentives reassured him that he could try working without suddenly losing his Medicare and SSDI. With support from the Ticket program, he accepted a position as an employment training counselor. And Jeff is one of several stories you're going to hear today about veterans who've been able to successfully use the Ticket in their journey to employment. So we're going to start by talking about what is Social Security's Ticket to Work program. So let me explain some of the basics for you. So the Ticket to Work program is a free and voluntary Social Security program that offers career development for people ages 18 through 64 who receive a disability benefit from Social Security and want to work. As we just learned, there are two Social Security disability benefits. We talked about SSDI when we did Jeff's example. There's another one called SSI, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So if you receive at least one of those benefits, SSDI or SSI, and you're age 18 through 64 and want to work, the ticket program can be a great fit for you. Our service providers can also help you understand how earnings from work will affect your benefits. I think this fear about what's going to happen to my benefits is a big one for a lot of people when they think about going to work. The ticket program gives free help so you can feel ready, confident, and supported when starting to return to work. It can offer you career counseling, so you'll talk with somebody about your skills, your interests, and your goals for employment. They also help with job readiness, so you can get help with that resume, practice those interview skills, learn more about workplace expectations, and understand how you can make that transition into the workforce. They can also help with education and training. So maybe you need some new skills, maybe you need to finish some education. Your ticket service provider can help you to connect to training programs to help you with those tasks. And then they also can support you when you start your new job. So they'll help you look for a job, apply for those jobs, and help you prepare for those first few days at work. And if you need any sort of special equipment or accommodations, your ticket provider can help you ask for what you need to be successful at work. After you find a job, you're not just abandoned at that point. We're going to continue to provide the tools you need to be successful at work. That might include ongoing support around any challenges you might have, help staying organized and prepared for the job, and any help you might need when you're ready to change jobs. The bottom line is that the ticket program is here with you every step of the way, not just to find a job, but also to help you keep it, grow in it, and safely make changes when you're ready. If you want to learn more, you can check out the link to access the fact sheet, and that is a link in the box. It's What is Social Security's Ticket Program? It's web link number 8, and that will give you more information. So let's talk about those disability programs offered by Social Security. So the first one I want to tell you about is Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI. And you'll note that it actually has the word insurance in the title. This is the program for people who've worked and paid FICA taxes. Those FICA taxes that are withheld from your paycheck are what's used to fund this insurance benefit. Now, the amount you get is going to depend on how much you've worked and how much you've paid into the system. There's a maximum amount to this, but everybody's benefit is going to be different because it's based on their own work history. Now, in order to qualify for SSDI, you do have to have enough of a work history. You have to have paid enough in FICA taxes to have that insured status. Now, younger people need to work for less time. Older people need to work for more time, up to 10 years, in order to earn those credits. So with SSDI, I want you to know that there are no rules around resources. You can own a mansion and yacht, you're absolutely fine. And they don't normally care about any unearned income that you might have because it's an insurance program. Now, the other program that Social Security offers is the Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI. This is a needs-based program. It is not an insurance program. And so for SSI, you not only have to meet that Social Security definition of disability or be blind, but you also have to meet resource limits, which are very low, and you have to have low income. Social Security administers the program, but again, it's really for people with limited income and resources. It's also available not only to people who are blind or disabled, but people age 65 or older, and even children with disabilities might get SSI. If you're thinking about work and you're wondering where do I start, one great option is to contact the Ticket to Work helpline. And you can reach them by calling them at 1-866-968-7842. And for TTY users, that number is 1-866-833-2967. There's really no wrong way to start your journey, but the Ticket to Work hotline is a great place to start because they can help you connect with ticket providers, can help you find that work incentive and benefit planning information to make you feel confident and ready to start employment. So go ahead and reach out. The helpline team is ready to answer your questions and help you connect with your employment team. So now let's start talking about benefits for veterans specifically. So excited to be sharing this information with you today. So we're going to look at some different types of benefits that veterans might be getting. We're going to talk about some programs offered through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And we're also going to talk about benefits that veterans might be receiving from the Social Security Administration, including that Social Security disability insurance and Supplemental Security Income, those two programs that we just talked about. I'm also going to talk about how to find additional help with VA benefits if you need that. So prepare yourselves. This is going to be a great discussion. So in order to qualify for benefits through the VA, someone must qualify as a veteran. They have a specific definition. It requires service on active duty. So a lot of times I've talked with people who've served with the National Guard or maybe the reserves, and they never really had active duty service. Unless they've had that active duty service, they may not qualify for benefits offered through the VA. So it's important to understand that they have to have that active duty service. The next thing the veteran must have is good paper, which is the character of their discharge status from the military. So for some veterans, this can be something that prevents them from accessing benefits. The VA requires that the veteran was discharged under other than dishonorable conditions. If you're a veteran that does not have good paper and you're interested in getting VA benefits, there are some options available to help you deal with your bad discharge. The first one is you can go back to the Department of Defense, to the branch where you served, and you can ask for a discharge upgrade. Now, to do this, you have to file the request within 15 years from the date that you were discharged from the service. But don't worry, if you miss that deadline, you still have an option. Or even if you get a bad decision on your request to upgrade your discharge, you can request a correction in military records. So those are one avenue for dealing with the discharge. The other way is with the VA itself. And you can ask the VA to do a character of discharge determination. They're going to look at a number of factors that surround the bad discharge and see whether you might still qualify for VA benefits despite that discharge. In addition to having active duty service and good paper, veterans must have also served for at least 2 years for most benefits offered by the VA. So if you meet those requirements, you might be eligible for some of the benefits that we're going to talk about today. The first program I want to talk to you about is disability compensation. This is an amazing program for veterans. It's tax-free income. It can lift veterans out of poverty. It's a wonderful program. So the first requirement is that for compensation, you must have a service-connected disability. And when I say that, I think a lot of people picture someone who was shot in combat. And yes, that would be a service-connected disability, but it's also much broader than that. Service connection just means that you had an illness or an injury that started while you were in the service or within a presumptive period after the service, or you could have even had a pre-existing condition that was aggravated during your time in the service. So there are many avenues to establish service connection. For example, if you were diagnosed with a mental health condition within 1 year of the date of your discharge, the VA is going to presume that that is a service-connected condition, even if the diagnosis didn't happen while you were on active duty. Now, once you have established service connection, the VA will rate your disability from 0 to 100% based on the severity of your symptoms and the impairment to your ability to work. Now, if you have a 0% disability rating, you're not going to get a cash benefit through the compensation program, but you will be entitled to health care. And we'll talk more about health care through the Department of Veterans Affairs in just a few minutes. The higher your disability rating, the more money you are paid in compensation benefits. In addition, if a veteran has a disability rating of 30% or higher, they actually can get more money for their dependent spouse, any dependent children, and even their dependent parents. And when I talk about children, the VA is going to consider children under age 18, but they will also offer benefits for children up to age 23 if they're still in school full time. And even if you have an adult child who has a disability and they're over age 18, if that disability started before age 18 and it made them incapable of self-support, you can still get dependent benefits for that adult child also. So if a veteran normally I'm going to tell you that having compensation, work really isn't going to impact your disability rating. And there are a couple of exceptions to that. One of them is veterans who are paid at the 100% rate. Even though their scheduler rating's less than 100%, the VA can pay them at 100% if they think that their service-connected disabilities make them unemployable. And that means they can't work at the substantial gainful level for the VA. It's 100% of the federal poverty level as established by the United States Census Bureau. So if a veteran were actually able to work at that substantial gainful level and maintain work at that level for 12 months, the VA will reduce the amount of their compensation to whatever their scheduler disability rating is. Maybe 60%, 70%. It doesn't mean they'll lose compensation, but it does mean that they will receive less money each month. So compensation is really a wonderful program for veterans with service-connected disabilities. It provides them with significant tax-free income, and it also gives them access to health care, which again, I'll talk about in a few minutes. So let's talk about a different disability benefit payment from the VA, and this program is called disability pension. Now, this is a needs-based program. So it is for veterans who live in low-income households and have limited resources. It also requires that the veteran must have served during a period of war. That doesn't mean that the veteran had to serve in combat. They may have never even left the US soil, but it means that at least one day that they served overlaps with the period of war as defined by Congress. And if you're wondering whether you qualify for that, you can find those exact dates on the VA's website at va.gov. In addition to being low income and low resource and serving during a period of war, veterans also must either be disabled or age 65 or older to qualify for pension. Now, to prove disability, the VA can go through the exact same disability determination process that they use for compensation. And if the veteran has a 100% disability rating, they would qualify for pension. But in addition, VA will actually accept a disability decision made by the Social Security Administration. So if a veteran is getting SSI or SSDI, they can accept that finding and find them disabled for disability pension. Finally, if somebody's living in a long-term care facility, the VA will also find that they are disabled for pension purposes. Now, just like compensation, pension will pay extra money if there are qualifying family members. That would include a spouse and dependent children. Now, because this is a needs-based program, pension will be reduced by wages, and the VA calculates pension on an annual basis. They look at the household's projected income for the coming year, and they subtract that income from the maximum annual pension rate for the household. And then they divide that annual amount into 12, and they pay the veteran's household in 12 monthly payments. So if a veteran goes to work during the year and has income that wasn't used in that projected annual income, they may get an overpayment of their pension payments. Now, there are ways to handle those overpayments. You can go to the Debt Management Center at the VA and fill out a request to waive that overpayment and fill out a financial status report. But going forward, the next year, when the veteran has a better feel for what that annual income is going to be, they'll just have a reduced pension payment and they can continue to get pension while they work. So let's talk about healthcare. I've mentioned it a few times. I told you I was going to tell you more about it. So let's talk about healthcare through the VA. So the VA does offer healthcare to qualifying veterans. And veterans must go in to a VA medical center and actually register for healthcare. So again, they have to have good paper, and they also have to have served for at least 2 years on active duty. Now, there is an exception to that service requirement, and that's for veterans who need mental health care. The VA recognizes that some veterans are experiencing mental health symptoms and that they need treatment and cannot wait to deal with that paper situation. So they can offer them up to 1 year of mental health care while they're working on a disability discharge or a character of discharge determination from the VA. So once a veteran registers, the VA is going to assign them to one of 8 priority groups. 1 is the highest priority, 8 is the lowest priority, and they're going to look at a number of factors when they assign them to their priority groups. So for example, priority group 1 is specifically for veterans who have a disability that is service-connected and rated 50% or higher, or a combination of disabilities so that their combined ratings 50% or higher. So there are other priority groups. They're going to look at a number of different factors. They're going to look at whether the veteran receives Medicaid or pension. They're going to look at what periods of war the veteran may have served during, whether they received any medals, whether they were a prisoner of war, whether they served in combat. They're going to look at a number of different factors. And the lowest 2 priority groups, priority groups 7 and 8, are going to have some co-payments for some of their care that they receive through the VA. But for most veterans, VA healthcare is very affordable with either no co-payment or a very low co-payment. So it's important to know that the veteran has to register and to make sure that they're assigned to the highest possible priority group based on their qualifications. And please know that if a veteran has a service-connected disability, the VA is always going to provide them with free, comprehensive health care regardless of their disability rating. So even veterans with a 0% disability rating are going to qualify for that free health care. If a veteran wants to get care from a non-VA provider, they can request prior authorization from the VA, and have the VA pay for that. And they're implementing a new program next year. You can actually get an annual authorization that will cover up to 30 standard visits for the veteran so that they don't have to request authorization for every visit. Now, if it's a medical emergency, the veteran doesn't need prior authorization. They just need to let the VA know as soon as possible, and as soon as they're medically stable, they could be transferred to a VA medical center. In addition, the VA has contracted with a number of urgent care centers across the country. And if a veteran goes into one of those urgent care centers that contracts with the VA, they can receive urgent care with only a $35 copayment for most veterans. That's a great deal. Now, if a veteran does have private health insurance, please know that the VA will bill private health insurance. They will not bill Medicaid or original Medicare. If you have a Medicare supplement program, they can bill your Medicare supplement program. Now, sometimes I get veterans who have Medicare who ask me if they have to register for VA healthcare. And I explain to them that VA healthcare is an individualized package of services for each unique veteran. And for that reason, it is not creditable coverage for Medicare Part B. And that means that if a veteran opts out of Part B when they first become eligible, because they have VA healthcare, they may pay a premium penalty. Their premium may be more if they need to enroll in Medicare Part B in the future. Now, for Medicare Part D, you don't have to worry because VA's prescription drug program is amazing. And so VA healthcare is creditable coverage for Medicare Part D, okay? So VA healthcare is a wonderful option for many veterans, especially veterans with disabilities. It can be a great resource for them to get the healthcare that they need. In addition, the VA offers vocational rehabilitation programs for veterans. There are two we're going to talk about today. The first one is Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VRE. And this is a program specifically for veterans that have a service-connected disability that's rated at least 10% disabling. They offer 5 different pathways to employment. So reemployment, they can help veterans get back to the job they had before they joined the service. Rapid access to employment, which helps them find work quickly. They offer amazing resources for veterans who are interested in self-employment. They can provide long-term supports, which can include some additional education for veterans, and even training in independent living skills. Now, there's another program offered through the VA called Compensated Work Therapy, or CWT. It's specifically for veterans who are receiving mental health care through the VA, and it focuses on the therapeutic benefits of work. So these are some wonderful options for veterans who are looking at employment. Now, as I said, veterans can also get Social Security benefits. So veterans can receive SSDI and SSI just like everyone else. However, please note that if they're getting a disability benefit through the VA, that might reduce the amount of their SSI payment because that's a needs-based program, and other income could reduce the amount of the SSI payment. Now, there are some special rules for veterans. So for veterans who have 100% permanent and total disability compensation rating, or for wounded warriors who are injured while on active duty after October 1st, 2001, Social Security can expedite the handling of those veterans' claims so they can get faster claims processing at Social Security. In addition, as I mentioned, the VA will accept a Social Security disability decision for the disability pension program. So the veteran doesn't have to go through and prove that they're disabled. They can just accept that Social Security decision. So if you're a veteran and you're wondering, how do I find help with these VA benefits? We've got some resources for you. So the first one here is the va.gov website. They have a resource to find accredited representatives who can help you file a claim for those benefits. And you can find that web link. It's web link number 10, and you can use that to help you find those benefits. For help with Social Security benefits, you can contact the Social Security Administration Help Desk at 1-800-772-1213, or for TTY users, you can call 1-800-325-0778. You can also look for a benefits counselor who specifically received a credential from Cornell University to do benefits planning for veterans. And if you're a benefits counselor and you want to learn more about that credential, you can visit ytionline.org. That's also available web link number 11 in your web links box. So let's talk about another veteran's journey. This is Robert. Robert is a veteran who spent 7 years serving in the U.S. Army. After a surgery mishap, he sustained a spinal cord injury that left him with limited mobility. When he was ready, Robert connected with a Ticket Program Employment Network, or EN. It's called Paralyzed Veterans of America, or PVA. Together, they developed an individual work plan that included the goal of returning to school. While he made progress in school, Robert's EN helped him find a volunteer program at a hospital. He became a peer counselor and enjoyed helping fellow veterans get the services they needed for a smooth transition back to civilian life. He used that volunteer experience and education to start a new career as a National Service Officer with Paralyzed Veterans of America. So this is a great example of how veterans are using Ticket to Work to get the training and support they need to explore employment. So I know that's a lot. So we reached the point where we're going to take a little break and answer some of your questions. So I'm going to invite Derek back. Derek, let me know what questions folks have.
This is Derek. Debora, thank you so much for covering a wealth of information there for us. The amount of content that you provided on disability compensation and disability pension and healthcare alone, sometimes this can be really complicated, and appreciate how you broke it down so we could all follow along. Before we get into our first Q&As, just want to remind everybody two things. One, when you submit your questions, please keep them general and do not include any personally identifiable information. Otherwise, we won't be able to respond to those. And secondly, we've had a couple questions about, well, I'm not a veteran, or does this apply to me? Just to clarify again, just a week after Veterans Day this month, we're focused on America's veterans. And we do that intentionally in order to acknowledge that their service, provide our gratitude to their service, and provide support in our ongoing commitment to really assist in those veterans' interest to take on what, in essence, is a second career. So that's why we focus on it. And secondly, a lot of the information that we're sharing around Ticket to Work is important for other Social Security beneficiaries because you are eligible for the program too. So with that, let's get into some questions. Some are pretty straightforward, others get into the weeds of the specifics. First, Debora, we have somebody that acknowledged that they're receiving VA benefits, but they just want to make sure you went through all of the VA benefits. Can they get the Social Security disability benefits too? Because they haven't talked to a work incentives counselor. Can you just clarify there?
Absolutely. You can apply for Social Security benefits. So a lot of veterans I've worked with get both SSDI and disability compensation. I call it the golden ticket because they're making good money, and they can receive both of those at the same time. If you get SSI, just note that it might be reduced, that payment amount, based on the amount that you receive in VA benefits. But I always encourage folks to go to Social Security and do those applications. You might be eligible for more benefits than you're currently getting. Thanks, Derek.
This is Derek again. Excellent. Let's turn to a couple questions regarding vocational rehabilitation. First, I'd like to acknowledge our Ticket to Work does have a partnership with the VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment Service, and the counselors and employment coordinators there are great partners in return to work for veterans and Social Security beneficiaries who are veterans. So shout out to them. We have a question. If I qualify for VRNE, why should I participate in Ticket to Work? Basically, can't I get that through VRNE? What are your thoughts there, Deborah?
This is Deborah. That's a great question. So VRNE can really help you prepare for and start your career, but once your plan with them ends, Ticket to Work can keep you moving forward. So through an employment network and the Ticket program, you can get those ongoing job supports that help you stay successful in your career and maybe explore that next opportunity.
This is Derek again. So thanks for that. And, granted, you went through a lot of information on disability compensation, on pension, and then healthcare. And then we got into vocational rehabilitation. And of course, you wrapped up with Social Security benefits. Remind us what VRNE does. And this potentially might not be for the veterans that are with us, but it might be for a lot of other service providers listening. You went through their tracks. Can you just go through them again and repeat them so both veterans and service providers are really can hone up on what they do?
This is Deborah. Absolutely. Through VRNE, also known as Veteran Readiness and Employment at the VA, those veterans that have a service-connected disability rated at least 10% or higher can receive so many services. So they can get a comprehensive evaluation that assesses their abilities, skills, interests, and employment potential. They also get vocational and career counseling and rehabilitation planning that's really aimed at helping them find that civilian job. They get help with finding the right job, getting ready for that job. They can even provide additional education and training services and a subsistence allowance to help pay for living expenses while you're in that training. And I can't emphasize enough that those independent living skills can be such an important part for veterans who are returning to the workforce. So that was a great question. Thanks, Derek.
This is Derek again. Thanks, Deborah. Now we have a question that's a little bit more specific. We removed some of the information, but there's an individual that identifies as living with severe PTSD. It's connected to their time in the service. And they are questioning if they really should try work or have the ability to work. Is this something that they should get support for through Ticket or through VRNE? What are your recommendations there?
This is Deborah. Yes, you can actually start with an evaluation and get some counseling through VRNE. Your vocational rehabilitation counselor will talk to you about your symptoms, your interests, and what types of work, if any, might be manageable for you right now. You can also get help requesting workplace accommodations from your employer, such as a flexible schedule, maybe a quiet workplace, or even remote work options. VRNE can work with your employer to identify and help fund some of those accommodations or assistive technology that you might need to be successful in your job. You will also have access to ongoing counseling and support from your VR counselor while you transition back to work. And if you participate in the Ticket to Work program, you'll also have access to continued support through an employment network. And if working isn't feasible, you may qualify for the independent living track through VRNE. This program helps veterans with serious disabilities to live as independently as possible, improve their daily functioning, and work on stability and wellness so that they're ready when the time is right to consider employment again. Thank you, Derek.
This is Derek again. Thanks for that and covering the vocational readiness and employment services through a couple angles. All right, so a couple more questions. One is coming in from a few different angles, but disability compensation, just to reinforce it, if we were listening, this is for veterans with service-connected disability. The VA rates that in 10% increments with some exceptions, and it provides folks with incomes. And then on disability pension, it's a needs-based program for those who served at least one day during a period of war. Now, I just cut it down, really simplified compared to all of the detail that folks need to know. Deborah, what happens if somebody's with us today saying, this is too much? How do I navigate compensation, pension, healthcare, and Social Security benefits? How do we encourage them to not react that way, but to say, no, I can do this and I got a support crew. Where do you recommend they go so they can dig into this a little bit more with confidence?
This is Deborah, and the good news is you're here right now. So this is a great place to start because you're learning more about the Ticket to Work program and you're getting resources. For example, again, web link number 10 is where you can go to actually talk with an accredited representative about those veterans benefits, and they can help you navigate and apply for the benefits for which you might be eligible. So I think it's wonderful that you're here. This is really a good place to start on this journey. There's so many great resources available to help you. And I hope that learning about those resources today is going to help you feel confident about exploring employment. Thanks, Derek.
Deborah, this is Derek. I'm back. I dropped for a moment. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And before we get back to your next section, I'd like to go to one final question because we do talk about employment with the VA's employment programs and with Social Security's Ticket to Work program. Where can veterans go to get help in translating all of the skills that they gathered through their military experience to civilian skills? So if they're thinking, work might not be for me, I wasn't trained for those jobs. Any recommendations there?
This is Deborah. Absolutely. Military service really teaches so many valuable skills, things like leadership, teamwork, and problem solving. An employment network can actually help you translate those skills into the skills that employers are looking for and highlight them as strengths when you're pursuing civilian employment. They help you translate that service history into a resume that really stands out. They can help you prepare for interviews, help you answer those hard questions about those skills, and connect you with employers who value you. And there are lots of employers out there who want to hire veterans because they know you have those skills. Thanks, Derek.
No, thank you. This is Derek again. Appreciate that, Deborah. And as always, our Q&A time is enjoyable, but it moves by quickly. And I'm going to turn it back to you so you could proceed with the next section on your path to financial independence, which will dig more deeply into connecting with employers. Back to you.
This is Deborah. Thank you so much, Derek. So we're now going to talk about your path to financial independence. So veterans, as I mentioned, just talking to Eric, veterans bring such desirable skills to the workforce. I mentioned teamwork and leadership, but things like dedication, integrity, great problem solving skills, and flexibility. And so it's important to learn how to translate those skills into what an employer is looking for. So you got to think like an employer. You got to understand how those skill sets are going to help benefit employers. So one of the most powerful things that you can do is really to persuade employers that you have value to add to their organization. So if you're thinking about a transition to work, we really recommend learning and spout and speaking to the employer in their language. That might sound a little different to you, especially if you're coming out of the service. So you might need to do a little bit of research that will help you to communicate the impact and results that you've had in your work experience and what that would look like for the new employer. So let's look at a few specific areas that you should consider how to communicate your ability to make a positive impact on the business or organization that will increase your chance of being hired. So most organizations are focused on attracting and retaining consumers. This can include setting and meeting core values, improving customer satisfaction and product or process quality, increasing operational efficiency, boosting the performance of the organization, either the part that you work for or the entire organization, improving the organization's strategy, and maximizing the return on investment. So helping to envision the future and the roadmap to get there. So let's turn to how some of your military experience might actually translate into a civilian career. So results that hiring managers are looking for. At example one, you see quickly solving problems and preventing them from occurring again. And then we give you an example of something you may have done in the military that could help with that. So when conducting after action reviews, I focus on the root causes of problems rather than searching for someone to blame. As a result, I ensure we only make a particular mistake one time and that we can accurately identify and address any operational weaknesses. And in the second example, we see an employer who's looking for someone who can help improve safety and reduce accidents, and military experience that might apply, having spent time on rifle ranges, handling hazardous materials, and working around dangerous equipment. I understand how to develop, disseminate, and implement safety guidelines that virtually eliminate accidents or injuries. So let's take a look at an example. I've got another veteran. This is Angel, and Angel sustained neck and back injuries during his service in the U.S. Air Force. He medically retired and started working and started getting Social Security disability insurance benefits. Angel was later diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and by his own admission, he was overwhelmed by the weight of his disability and illness. With treatment, Angel was able to beat cancer and start thinking about work. From a friend, he learned about a company that was looking to hire information technology professionals to support the U.S. Department of Defense. Angel was offered the job, but he had questions about what full-time employment would mean for his disability benefits. Through the Ticket to Work helpline, he was connected with an employment network that provided him with free benefits counseling. He learned about work incentives and how work would impact his benefits. And with that information, he had the confidence to accept the job offer. And this is a scenario that I have seen so many times in my career as a work incentive planner, that once veterans really understand the special work rules that help provide safety nets to them, they have that confidence and they can make informed choices about going to work. So this is a common scenario that I've seen frequently throughout my career. So let's talk now about who can help you achieve your work goals. So you may need some support on your work journey. Connecting with a ticket program service provider can actually help you develop achievable goals, establish steps to find and maintain employment, and actually start your career. Ticket program service providers can also help you identify the type of career you might enjoy and help you identify those transferable skills and how to explain those to civilian employers in a way that increases your likelihood of getting that job. So you might be wondering, who's actually out there to help you reach those goals? So there's good news. There's a whole team ready to support you. Two key players are employment networks, also known as ENs, and your state vocational rehabilitation agency, also known as VR. These service providers specialize in helping eligible people with disabilities explore work options, build their own businesses, and navigate the rules around disability benefits. And together, they can help form your employment team, offering you guidance, resources, and encouragement every step of the way. So let's take a closer look at each one brings to the table. And let's start with those employment networks. So an employment network is a public or private organization, and they partner with Social Security to offer free employment supports to individuals eligible for the Ticket to Work program. So many of your state-run workforce systems, like those American job centers, can also serve as workforce ENs or employment networks. So there are employment networks across the country. They operate nationwide, but their services can vary. Some are going to focus on a specific geographic region based on your zip code, while others may serve an entire state or even the entire country. So you get to choose what works best for you. So for example, if you're in Maryland, you might prefer to work with somebody local so that you can have in-person meetings. Or maybe you'd rather connect with a provider virtually from anywhere in the country. And the flexibility really is yours when working with employment networks. So how can an employment network help? Let's take a closer look at this. They can support you on your journey to financial independence through work, and they offer a wide range of free services that are tailored specifically to you, your goals, and your needs. They can help you identify your work goals and build that individual work plan that's going to guide your progress. They'll help with resume writing and updates. They're going to make sure your skills and experience stand out with modern keywords that are going to catch an employer's attention. They can also help you prepare for interviews. They can offer practice sessions and give you tips to boost your confidence. They can help you request reasonable accommodations that you need to succeed in a job. They can provide benefits counseling through certified experts who are going to explain to you how work might affect your benefits and which work incentives are available to help you stay secure while you're working and earning money. In short, employment networks are really there to help you succeed, step by step and on your own terms. So let's take a look now at what a vocational rehabilitation agency could offer you. So vocational rehabilitation agencies are another valuable resource for people who want to work. They offer in-house planning and one-stop services that can help be a great fit, whether you want to launch your own business for the first time or maybe have a shift in your career direction. If you're thinking, I want to try something different or I need to learn a new skill to return to work, the VR agencies are there to help. They specialize in vocational rehabilitation, which means they help people with disabilities learn new ways to work or adapt tasks to fit their needs. That might include retraining, learning to use assistive technology, or developing strategies to manage work effectively. They can also include education and training goals, whether you need an associate's degree, some sort of certification, or vocational training to return to work. Your state VR agency might be able to help you access those resources. So the VR agencies are really there to help you build the skills, confidence, and foundation that you need for a successful employment journey. So let's review a few more points on working with a VR agency. So first, it's good to start by understanding that VR agencies usually work with individuals who need more significant services. In some states, that might include intensive training, education, and rehabilitation. And if that sounds like what you need, then a VR agency might be an important part of your employment team. They can also provide career counseling and job placement assistance, as well as counseling about how those earnings from work are going to impact your disability benefits. So if you're wondering, how do I go about finding one of these providers? This sounds great, but where do I find them? So you can start by reaching out to the Ticket to Work helpline. So you can call the Ticket to Work helpline at 1-866-968-7842. Or for TTY users, you can call them at 1-866-833-2967. And you can reach them Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also look online on the Choose Work website on the Find Help page, and you can actually search for the provider you want based off of your zip code. Again, if you want to meet with somebody in person, you can look for local providers. You can also look for specific services that they offer. Maybe you know what you need to get started with employment. You can search by the type of service that you need. You can also search by disability type. So maybe you want to work with someone who specializes in mental health conditions or mobility or vision impairments. You can search specifically based on that disability. You can also search based on languages spoken to make sure that you don't have language barriers when receiving those services. And then you can also search for the specific type of provider that you want to work with, whether that's an employment network, a workforce employment network, your state VR agency, or a PABS provider. So those are true great ways to get started and help you find the service provider that you're looking for specifically. Now, we mentioned American Job Centers, and I want you to know that many of those American Job Centers are also workforce employment networks. So there are nearly 2,400 of these centers across the country, and they can help people with employment services. And many of them have veteran representatives who offer specialized services that are tailored to help veterans with their employment journey. So that could be another option if you prefer. Definitely worth taking a look to see whether or not you are interested. And we do have a link to the American Job Centers page for veterans information, and that's available in your web links. Let me find the right number for you. I'm not finding it. I apologize, but you can search for the American Job Centers and find those opportunities there. There are also some online job sites that are specifically job search sites for veterans. They're tailored specifically to veterans and organizations that want to hire veterans. So the first one is job openings for disabled veterans, and you can find that in web link number 16. They have a job board and blog posts with helpful career information for veterans. The next site is Hire Heroes USA, and that's web link number 17, and it provides free job search assistance to U.S. military members, veterans, and their spouses. The next resource is Getting Hired, and they have a dedicated career section specifically for veterans. Job seekers can register and apply to jobs for free, and you can find Getting Hired in the web links. It's number 18. And then the next one is Recruit Military, which connects military job seekers with its services that include a job board and nationwide career fairs. And I know some people really prefer those career fairs. They feel like they shine in those face-to-face contacts. So that might be a great opportunity for you. And you can find Recruit Military in web link number 20 in today's webinar. So check out some of those links and try to find the one that feels like the best match for you and your job search needs, or try more than one. And finally, during today's webinar, we've learned a little bit about veterans. We talked about Jeff and Robert and Angel. If you want to learn more about the services and supports that they used on their employment journey and our latest success stories, there is a success story and fact sheet, and you'll find more resources available to veterans, both through the ticket program and outside of the ticket program. And if you enjoyed those success stories and you want to find out more about those resources for veterans, you can find the Ticket to Work for Americans Veterans fact sheet. It's web link number 21 in your web links. So I'm going to take a break now and ask Derek if we've got more questions that we should be talking about. Derek?
This is Derek. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, we've come to our second Q&A. Thank you so much for everybody for submitting your questions. Before we dive into those, I want to go back to one of the slides that Deborah was speaking to about the American Job Centers. She was trying to point everyone to a link that's not in our web links pod, but luckily we can share that web address with you now and give you a tip on where to go. We encourage you to visit Career One Stop. That's one word, Career ONESTOP.org. That will take you to the Department of Labor's website where you can find the American Job Centers. If you go to careeronestop.org, go into their menu and use the Find Local Help option. There you can search for a variety of really awesome resources, including one that will put you in touch with your local job center. And they have those services that Deborah just covered. Also mention, we heard a question today in the Q&A pod, or saw a question in the Q&A pod about somebody that is over eligibility age for the ticket program. And they're saying, I need to make some extra income. There is an older workers program through the Department of Labor. If you go to that careeronestop.org, you'll find the older workers program and see if you can qualify for the senior employment program, which requires a certain income level. It has to meet a threshold, but it can get you an opportunity to part-time work like you are seeking. So we also appreciate our partnership with the Department of Labor. If you go to their Find Local Help page, you'll see a link there too to the employment network finder they have. And as you know, we also have a directory and we point to the American Job Centers that serve as employment networks. All right, with all that, let's get into the questions. The first couple questions we have are about employment networks that you covered, Deborah. Are there ones that specialize in specifically working with veterans?
This is Deborah. Absolutely. So there are employment networks that specifically specialize in serving veterans. So when you go to that direct search page on that Choose Work website that we talked about, there's an option to select veterans as one of the specializations that you're looking for. And we've talked today in some of our success stories about some of the veterans who've worked with some of those employment networks that specifically serve veterans.
This is Derek. Thank you, Deborah. A follow on, do the employment networks help with, I don't know, an interest in entrepreneurship or self-employment? Is that a possibility for the ticket program and employment networks?
This is Deborah. That's a great question. And yes, employment networks can help people to start their own businesses. They can provide a variety of services that support veterans in that task. You know, there are a lot of loans through the Small Business Administration and other resources that specifically help veterans to start businesses. And employment networks are one of the services that can help with that process.
This is Derek again. Thank you. Another question about working with an EN and a workforce system agency like an American Job Center. Can someone work with both?
So, Derek, can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Sure. This is Derek again. Can I work with both an employment network and a workforce agency like an American Job Center?
Thank you. This is Deborah. Yes, you can work with both. There's nothing that would restrict you. And in my experience, there are some employment networks that are really good at one piece of the puzzle, and your American Job Center might be good with another piece of the puzzle. And by working with both, you can get supports that give you comprehensive services to help you on your journey to employment.
This is Derek. Sounds like great advice. What about disability disclosure? We've had two or three questions come in. Basically, will my employer know I have a disability or do I need to disclose with the employer?
So that's a great question. This is Deborah. And, you know, disclosure is a personal choice. And it's something that working with a ticket provider can help you with. They can talk through the pros and cons of disclosing your disability. They can talk to you about how to disclose. which person at your in your employer are you going to talk to about your disability. It's important if you need to request reasonable accommodations, you're going to have to disclose some information about your disability, but your ticket provider can have that conversation with you so that you can make an informed choice about whether to disclose, and then they can really help you step by step on how to disclose, and they can go through that process. I actually worked with one young man, and his ticket provider actually role played with him having that conversation with his employer so that when he went in to disclose and request an accommodation, he felt confident in making that request.
This is Derek. That's outstanding, Deborah. I really like that. Practicing through role play with your service provider, an employment network, or otherwise will allow for someone to increase confidence. And if that personal choice, like you said, it's all about performing essential job functions. If somebody's out there that doesn't need to disclose a disability in order to perform essential job functions without reasonable accommodations, then that's your choice and that's personal. So great advice. Love that. Um, Sometimes when this happens, we do know that people can have challenges, whether that's with an employer or perhaps somebody feels like they're not being treated right because of the disability. Can you explain a little bit about Social Security's protection and advocacy services for beneficiaries? We haven't brought that up, but we did have a question that says, well, what happens if I have a negative experience? What can I do?
This is Deborah, and I certainly hope you don't have a negative experience, but Social Security recognizes that that might happen. And if it does, they actually fund PABS, which is the Protection and Advocacy for Beneficiaries of Social Security. And they can provide advocacy services to help you get the employment services and supports that you need. So they can provide access advocacy with your state VR agency. They can help you provide advocacy with an employment network or other providers in this system. So if you're having challenges using your ticket and you feel like you're not getting the services that you need, please know that PABS is available and a resource that can help you. And that Choose Work website that we've been talking about, that's web link number 22, also allows you to search for the PABS for where you live if you do need that kind of advocacy and support. Thanks, Derek.
This is Derek again. Thank you. Yeah, and our team has also made me aware that that web link pod number for the Career One Stop, if you're interested in using the web links pod in the bottom right corner, is number 24. That's been inserted there. Please go there to select that in order to access that careeronestop.org website. Let's shift over a little bit back to some veterans related content for a second. I understand that VRE, the Veteran Readiness and Employment Service inside of the Veteran Benefits Administration, can help me prepare for and find a job. What help does an EN do to help me once I'm employed? Now, you brought this up with an example around an EN with a workforce agency, like an American Job Center. It's kind of the same scenario, but now with the VRE and an EN. What about retention services from an EN? Anything to offer there, Deborah?
This is Deborah, and absolutely. So employment networks can help you with some of those follow-along services. So maybe you need some ongoing job coaching. Maybe you need help with understanding how your benefits are changing as you're working and earning more. Maybe you need help and support around a potential job change. I frequently have had people come back to me if they've been offered a raise or a promotion, and they want some more support and some more information around advancing their career. So the beautiful thing about employment networks is that they can provide those follow-along services even after other providers may have closed the case because you're successfully working. And we know that just because you started a job and you're doing well right now doesn't mean you might need some supports in the future. And that's the piece of the puzzle that employment networks can really help you with. So thanks for that question, Derek.
This is Derek. Let's stick with the kind of the VA theme. We have a few more coming in. Will working through the ticket program affect my VA benefits? I think you covered a variety of them: compensation, pension, healthcare. Somebody works with the ticket program who is also receiving VA benefits. Any negative consequence there?
This is Deborah, and absolutely not. You can use the ticket to work and keep VA benefits. The one thing to keep in mind is that earnings from work might impact some VA benefits. And I'm thinking specifically about the disability pension program, which might be impacted. And if you have a really high wage earning veteran without a service-connected disability, it might increase their co-payments for VA healthcare a little bit. But just the fact that you're using the ticket to work should have no adverse impact on your veterans' benefits at all. Thanks for that question.
This is Derek. Thank you, Deborah. Now, this hasn't been a question that's come in, but it's one that I've often wondered about. If a veteran is receiving disability pension, are they also eligible to receive Social Security Insurance, Supplemental Security Insurance, SSI? They seem very similar. Do you have cases where people are receiving both?
This is Deborah, and the short answer is no, and here's why. The pension payment through the VA is always higher than the SSI payment amount each year. And so if a veteran were getting pension, they would have too much income to be eligible for SSI. Now, I think it's interesting that the pension rules say that SSI doesn't count as income for pension, but pension absolutely counts as income for SSI. So veterans usually are going to be on either SSI or pension. And one of the things I do when I'm talking to veterans and they're saying, which should I apply for? I ask them if they're going to work, because if a veteran wants to go to work, SSI might be a better program because it's got some really great rules around work. They count less than half of your wages, and so you can be much better off financially when you work on SSI. If they want to work, pension's not a great option because it doesn't have those types of safety nets, and you're going to lose $1 of your tax-free pension for every dollar of taxable wages you earn. So pension, usually you're going to be worse off financially when you go to work. So you're not going to see veterans getting both. And if a veteran's trying to decide which to apply for, my big question is, are you going to work? Because if you're not going to work, take pension, it pays more, right? But if you think you're going to go to work, SSI is the better program for you. That was a great question.
This is Derek. Thanks, Deborah. Another one here came in, and you mentioned, receiving some um, work income might impact some benefits. Specifically, someone asked about education benefits, and that directs me to think about GI Bill or VA education benefits. So if somebody's working through the Ticket to Work program and they start to receive income, does that affect their education benefits?
This is Deborah, and I always think of it this way. Those education benefits are like insurance benefits. You served your country and you earned those benefits. So even if you're able to work some, even if you're able to use the ticket to work, that doesn't mean you're going to lose your eligibility for those education benefits through the VA or your ability to use those benefits. So it should have no impact, and you should be able to continue your education. And I know for a lot of veterans, that's important because they want to be able to maybe work part-time while they're using their VA education benefits, and Ticket to Work would be one way that they could do that.
This is Derek. Thanks for that, Deborah. It's really helpful. You know, you covered a bit about, think like an employer and talking about transition from one original career in the military to a new career post disability. I was in a meeting earlier today, and it talked about um, those individuals, veterans that are transitioning to civilian work in general, and those that are disabled are finding industry employment in things like public administration, manufacturing, even healthcare technology, and some more modern things like supply chain modernization and renewable energy. I think about all that and I'm like, there's a lot of people that'd be like, I've never done these things. I don't know if I could do that with my disability. How does somebody gain confidence about what reasonable accommodations and assistive technologies there so they can look at these new positions and be like, oh, I can do that with those accommodations? Any tips?
This is Deborah, and I would really recommend talking with one of the professionals we've been talking about today, whether that's using the Ticket to Work program and working with an employment network or your state vocational rehabilitation agency, or maybe using one of the programs offered by the VA, whether that's VRNE or CWT. If you talk to these professionals, they can help you really think through and understand what these careers are, help you understand what's required to do those jobs, and whether you can get the supports that you need to be successful in that job. And so there are these professionals, this is what they do. They help you find your niche, find the right job for you, and help you explore jobs that you're interested in to make sure that you're going to be successful, because all of these programs are committed to helping you be successful in your employment journey. So that was a great question. Thank you.
This is Derek again. Thank you, Deborah, for everything. We need to turn to wrap up today's webinar, but I certainly appreciate the information that you've shared, your presentation, and for addressing so many questions from today's attendees to really help all of us learn more about the intersection of VA and Social Security benefits, and importantly, how the Ticket to Work program operates and the employment team. That's there to support our eligible veterans, but also to support all eligible Social Security beneficiaries. So we appreciate you so much, Deborah, and it's been fun working with you again this month.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love getting to talk about veterans. Thank you.
Okay, and before we wrap up today, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our attendees, especially our veterans who attended today, by being here and asking your questions and really learning about our employment options. You've already taken a significant step toward building the future that you want. The ticket program, just to reinforce it, is here to help disabled veterans and also all eligible Social Security beneficiaries in your employment journey. And remember, everybody, work can be about paychecks, but it's not only about paychecks. It's about independence, confidence, and reaching many other goals. And perhaps these are new career goals after military service. And with that, let's turn to wrap up. How do I get started with this? As Deborah has said, we encourage you to reach out. There's no incorrect point of entry to begin your participation in the ticket program. You can call the Ticket to Work helpline at 1-866-968-7842. Or for individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing, or have speech or communication disabilities, please reach out to our TTY line at 1-866-833-2967. You could also, of course, peruse the Choose Work website. We encourage you to do that online, and we have links to the Choose Work website in the web links pod, or you could go directly to choosework.ssa.gov. And when you're there, explore the Find Help tool at choosework.ssa.gov/find help. That's our directory where you can explore the employment team members that Deborah reviewed today. We also encourage and invite you to stay connected and informed through the ticket program. One easy way to do this is by subscribing to the Choose Work blog and signing up for our Ticket to Work email updates. Please visit choosework.ssa.gov/contact, where you'll find subscription options and many more ways to stay engaged. The link is also available down below in the web links pod at the Ticket to Work contact information. If you prefer updates sent straight to your phone, you can opt into our text messaging program, which is very popular. It's a way to get updates about future webinar topics and dates, along with more success stories and a lot of tips about how to be successful in your employment journey. Just text us TICKET to 1-571-489 5292. Please be aware that standard messaging rates may apply depending on your mobile phone plan. And if you have questions or need support at any time and you prefer to use email, we welcome you to reach out at tickettowork@ssa.gov. Whether you're looking just to get started or looking for very specific guidance along the way, our entire team is here ready to help. And importantly, as we go to wrap up, please join us next month for our WISE webinar. This session will be entitled Top 3 FAQs About Working While Receiving Disability Benefits. It is scheduled for December 17th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is now available online at choosework.ssa.gov/WISE, or you can contact our helpline at 1-866-968-7842. For individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing, please use our TTY at 1-866-833-2967. Once again, we thank everyone for attending today, and especially our recognition of America's disabled veterans. The Ticket to Work program is here to support you in your journey to work and financial independence. This ends today's webinar.